I think well, here we are again, me and Gaz doing our Doctor Who most to give a review to you of a classic one. What should we do today, Gaz?
Well, I think, we're going to go for the Key to Time season, aren't we, Al?
Well, that's good because I possess the key to time.
I don't trust that sixth segment, I tell you. It looks phony to me.
So the first one we're going to choose is, obviously, we're not going to do it out of random order. So first of all, we have the exceptional Ribos Operation. Now, is this written by, is it Robert Holmes?
Robert Holmes himself, yes.
Yeah, and it's a doozy. One of my absolute favourites. The character work, even the monsters. It's funny.
Wow, really?
Yeah. What do you think?
I hadn't watched it since it was originally on.
Yeah.
So I rewatched it last month, and it was okay. I think the biggest revelation was how much I liked Mary Tam as Romana, because I never, in my memory, I'd never really rated her that much as Romana, and I thought she was fabulous. So she was the episode for me. So
my wife did not care for her. She said that she sort of stood around with her arms like this in a glamorous frock, just sort of frowning at the Doctor and saying how silly he is. Have you noticed, by the way, in this, that the Doctor couldn't be more silly? This is Graham Williams' era, and now suddenly Tom Baker is off the leash, and any silly suggestion, they go, yeah, sure, go right ahead. I think before that, Phil Hinchcliffe was like, no, let's not do that, Tom. And basically,
I was going to say, we also have throughout the episode Tom trying to hide very badly the fact he's been bitten by a dog.
Yes.
Because in the Pirate Planet, they make the TARDIS shake and he gets a hit, and then I've got that. That's why I've got this bite. But we do nothing. He's got really bad makeup throughout this. And I understand it was the dog of one of the other actors, that just leapt him and bit him.
Exactly. I mean, they should have used this distraction with the Scringe Stone, which is what it's all about. I love the character work in this. I think it's really funny. There's double acts all over the place. It's got the music reminds me of Blackadder 1 for some reason, and some people find it very dull and boring. And
this whole season, the music just said Blake Seven's season 1 to me, and I realised, of course, they're contemporaneous. So that's not a shock.
When you talked about Romana 1, there's a prototype of her quite clearly in the Invasion of Time, the previous season, where we meet a female Time Lord, and she's a little bit posh and haughty, and you go, oh, that's a bit like Romana, isn't it? And I think they were kind of testing out how that would work.
I love the idea of the Doctor having another Time Lord as a companion. And, I like Romana 1, I like Romana 2, and I just like the dynamic that suddenly the Doctor maybe isn't the smartest guy in the room for once.
I mean, what I also enjoy about it is the fact that you've got this guy who's very famous. The one who goes, come on, my boy, let's get there. Whatever that guy who speaks like my bad impersonation of Michael Winner. Calm down, dear. But he's got this really cool voice. Apparently, he's a really good comedy actor of the time who I've briefly seen in Ripping Yarns. But he's extraordinary in it. He's brilliant.
Oh, which one's that?
He's the guy who's the dodgy dealer. You've got Anstoff, who's the young person.
Yeah.
And the older guy. And he's the name. I should have looked it up, but he's brilliant in it. So don't get me wrong. I mean, you're dead right. The character work in it is engaging throughout. Yeah.
I think the plot line is terrible.
Oh.
But I really, really loved that first episode with the White Guardian.
Oh, yes.
Or is it the White Guardian? I mean, that's a discussion for a later time. But I like this whole idea that suddenly the Doctor's, somebody more important than the Time Lords has pulled him out to do something. And it's a nice, bigger universe sort of thing. I mean, the whole concept of the Key to Time season, a serialized season. Wow, what a nice original idea for Doctor Who to go for.
I mean, I'm terrible. I enjoyed The Flux. I enjoyed Trial of a Time Lord. And here we have a very similar thing.
Even the last 2 episodes of Trial of a Time Lord.
Even the last 2 episodes, even the last episodes of Key to Time. They're always very difficult to do a conclusion to these long-running stories because you've got either you ignore all the strands and make something up, kind of what happens here, or basically you connect to something right at the end, which is kind of what they do with Trial of a Time Lord. No spoilers. But for me, every time I've sat down to watch this, I've really enjoyed it. And there's nothing I don't like about it. I'm giving it it sounds really foolish. I'm giving it like a 10 out of 10 because there's so much joy for me in it. Yeah,
it's a solid 7. It's a good workaday Doctor Who episode storyline. I enjoyed it. I mean, I love Romana. Romana's one of the reasons it's a 7, not a 6. I like the kind of foretaste of it, but it just was. It's an alien planet. It doesn't look much like an alien planet. It looks like a set.
So I'm fooled by the polystyrene and the fake snow and the jokes.
But not perfectly watchable, perfectly enjoyable. And as you say, the characterization, the guest cast make the best of what they've got, and absolutely watchable, absolutely.
I mean, another thing I forgot about it with the Ribos operation is the fact that it is it's not as if, how to describe it. Normally in a Doctor Who story, you've got a person who will kill you with a magic zappy ray thing. Monsters are coming to destroy the Earth. There isn't really, and I can understand why you're not drawing in, a massive, immediate, oh my goodness, if they don't get to the key to time. It's so vague and intergalactic and everything that you couldn't really, if they didn't get the key to time this week, the world isn't destroyed.
Yeah. You're right. That kind of level of peril doesn't really build up until the last story. Yeah. And then we do kind of get the idea of now we really do need the key to time with the Armageddon Factor. But yeah,
I'm not going to find it up my nose. I have it at the moment. There you go. So yes, so definitely. So you're saying 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. I mean, I think what's really fascinating about this is it's a definite. It's Graham Williams saying, like, he was sort of finding his feet in the last seasons, bits of goth, bit of humour. With this, he's going, you know what we should do? A bit like what Russell T Davies is saying he's going to do at the moment, which is a fantasy leaning into less sci-fi tropes. So now we have coming up something which kind of contradicts what I've just said, because this couldn't be the most sci-fi thing.
It's a high concept, isn't it, the pirate planet?
A pirate planet. Now,
and this is one I really, really, really remembered watching the first time round, loving it as a kid. And, I was so disappointed watching it again.
Wow.
I love the captain. I love Bruce Purchase. Not Ray Purchase, but Bruce Purchase. He does great things with the role. There is that light touch. I mean, obviously, this is a Douglas Adams script. But
it's not subtle.
It doesn't feel like a Douglas Adams script, does it? He's not off the leash here.
Well, what's interesting about it is that, what was it, that thing that Douglas Adams once said about comedy is that you shouldn't play it funny. You should. I mean, so imagine this really, for me, fun Douglas Adams script, but less hammy. Everybody is all the way up to 11. But imagine if they played it really straight, it would have been funnier, because the first episode I was watching was going, I know this is going to get better. When the Maudlins or whatever they're called, when the monks come to get, they don't it's shame.
Space hippies. No one wants space hippies.
Moons of madness. And there's loads of jokes. There are some great jokes. There's a really funny. There's lots.
There is the worst shootout I've seen in sci-fi, and I have watched Jason of Star Command. So I know bad shootouts when I see them, and it's like the guards are just like, we're just vaguely pointing your guns. Oh, I've been shot and I'm gonna have a bit of a lay down now. It is like live action role playing where no one really knows the rules. It's took me out of it. It really did. When we're in the command center of the planet with the captain, with his sidekick, with his lady. That was great. That was. I kind of liked. I like the hamminess. I like the operatic quality of it, because it gives Tom something to play off at that level.
Yeah.
Every time we went outside, I thought, it's a middling episode of Blake 7 again.
Oh.
The bit with the door, the bit with trying to get into the door. We open it, and it's like, it's not a space door. It's a door in someone's shed. It really is. It just it's everything people. When people criticize Doctor Who, it looks cheap. This was one that looked cheap.
It's a shame.
For the OB stuff.
Have you read the book? Because there's a pirate.
Oh yeah, of course I've read the book.
it's much more. It is the original Douglas Adams script, and obviously the book could not be put on the screen with the kind of budget they've got there, so they had to cut back and change. The idea that the pirate captain is not the baddie. It's not a twist too far, but it is like I kind of wish that they'd hinted towards it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it does rather come out of nowhere in the last episode, doesn't it? Suddenly, aha, it was me all along. Cause I remember when I was watching it, there was something in the back of my mind going, she's more than his nurse. There's something about her, but it wasn't foreshadowed. So despite the fact I was kind of aware of it with 30 years between me and my last watching of it,
Can I say my two favorite jokes in it?
Go on then.
Don't appear to be jokes. The second one, definitely a joke, is a point where Captain, we've got to destroy this something. What does it look like? It looks like everything. Destroy everything.
Yeah.
And then there's a joke which I didn't realize was a joke. There's a point in the first episode where this female character is going to the old guy who goes, "Oh, don't worry about the men she adds. Don't do this." And she goes, "Why? And he goes, "Stop asking so many questions," which I think is a good joke. And it doesn't appear to be a joke. It's almost as if I think Douglas Adams was testing out some funny jokes. He crams in something that sounds a lot like some of the lines from Hitchhikers, the bit where the two guards are with him and he says,
Douglas Adams, he's an archery user of lines, and he'll workshop them in another production and then bring them back polished and do a clip more polished in Hitchhikers, I suspect.
There's one really serious bit when I can't remember which episode it's in the Pirate Planet, where the captain is explaining the thing where he's crushing planets down and he's doing it ridiculously over the top. But Tom Baker suddenly goes, "What's it for? Why are you doing this?" He really gets suddenly we're on a different page. It's like, Tom, if you could play it like that all the way through, it'd be brilliant. He gets really upset and you can see it in his eyes. He's crying, and you're like, blimey, that's not a performance you expect.
I've just reminded myself of the cliffhanger where the Doctor goes and walks the plank out the window, and then no, I haven't. I've just used this projection. It's like, what a cop out.
Well, the laugh bit is a bit like Austin Powers when they go, ha, 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 and that's the cliffhanger. I do feel that in the same way that, I'll be very pretentious now, in the same way that Roald Dahl, when he does You Only Live Twice, and that's quite meta in James Bond thing, he gets James Bond to do a lot of things he wouldn't normally do. I feel with this is almost like, it's not a spoof, but it feels like a satire of Douglas Adams going, there is a wacky captain, he is a robot. It's really sort of, you can watch this seriously, but you could also watch it in a kind of Adam West Batman way, which I think
it's watchable, but I hate to say it, it's not as good as the Ribos Operation.
Dear.
And not for me anyway. I mean, this is 6 out of 10. There's good parts. The captain is good. Tom's great. Romana's fab. The outside stuff is cheap and poor, and the resolution, the plot line, no. But the concept, teleporting planets that crush the planet, brilliant. Love that. That's a real high concept sci-fi thing, and that was probably my favourite thing of the whole episode.
Well, that's the thing for me as well. I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10 because there's a lot I liked, but as you say, it's the execution and the rushness, and also, like the Ribos Operation ends with an explosion, this also ends with an explosion. I know there were some tensions behind the scene as well when they were producing it, that the producer was not so keen on this one as a storyline. So you do kind of wonder if there was pushback in certain aspects of it, which is why you raising the point with the book being perhaps more better developed. Perhaps if we'd allowed Douglas Adams to be Douglas Adams, we might have had a stone cold classic. That's the thing. We've got a lot of ideas on the screen, and maybe. And I do like stuff when people get to be weird auteurs and do whatever they like. I think this might have been better as a 6-parter, really let it breathe rather than sort of crush it into the fourth episode,
Maybe that's the metatextual thing. It was crushed.
Yes, indeed. So I've did 7 out of 7.5. And you said
6.
Okie dokie. So
that's because it has to. It's like I say, and it surprised me. I was genuinely looking forward to the Pirate Planet more than any other story in the season.
The expectations were quite high. And sometimes being high and watching Doctor Who can help. We haven't got to Power of Kroll yet, which I won't tell you about. But this is one of your favourites, and it is rather good. This is Stones of Blood.
Oh, my Lord. This was even better than I remembered it.
Hey.
I just adored it. Everything about it worked. It felt like a Pertwee-esque story because it was, set in a little quintessential English village with an invisible spaceship hovering above it. It had the occult, but actually they're not the space aliens, and it just worked. They had a small cast, but they were a good cast, and I could have watched the Professor, in her own spin-off show. I wish we'd brought her back. She was brilliant. everything about it was just fab. Vivian Faye, lovely. The Stones of Blood terrified me as a child. I will confess that.
Yeah.
I remember every time I saw a standing stone after that, I was like, oh, I don't like them. They might eat my blood. And I thought the effects were still good. Everything about it was dark. You know, we had a couple camping. They were eaten alive by the stone.
That comes out of nowhere. I mean, that's the thing with the Stones of Blood. We do have some comedy bits and some funny things, but we do have this real dark, bloody stone, knives, sacrifices. Some bits where Tom Baker again is off the leash. So there's a bit where he's about to be sacrificed. He goes, "Oh, I can see a bicycle," and so that we're having fun. But then we have this silly bit, which I like silly bits, in the space station where who are they called? The strange aliens.
The Megara, yes.
Yeah. Oh, not your favourite then.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean they're very Star Trek. You know, we are disembodied higher entities. We're going to put you on trial.
Yeah.
It didn't maybe quite work, the trial. It did perhaps go on a bit. Hey, they did something different.
Yeah, well, that's the thing I was going to say. So far, with Ribos Operation, Pirate Planet, Stones of Blood, we are definitely doing stuff very different with Doctor Who. We haven't brought back any Daleks or Sidemen. Imagine if the Heat to Time and Davros had got it or something. I mean, that's
Yeah. I mean, so in that respect, you know, kudos to them for not going down the tried and trusted. It's with a famous monster each week.
Yeah.
Which they could have done. I mean, this is. I mean, the Stones of Blood. It's a 9 out of 10 for me, undoubtedly. I'm only knocking 1 point off, and that's just for that last episode, not quite gelling.
Yeah.
But I liked what they did with it. I really did, and I love the cast, and I just thought it was a tight 4-parter, perfect length.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. 9 out of 10. I think what's interesting about it is the fact that you are scared, but you are amused. But both things don't cancel each other out. There's always that worry that, a bit like Last Jedi or something, when there's too many jokes and there's serious stuff, they don't get the balance right, where they get it like or Ragnarok, in my opinion. So Stones of Blood does have some really scary stuff. I think the only thing that sort of lets it down slightly is there's a little spaceship that they're in, and some of the effects shots aren't great. And but
it's 78. It's a BBC budget. I wasn't bothered. Weirdly, I wasn't bothered as much by that as I was by the Pirate Planet OB bits, which looked cheap. I was like, no, I'm fair enough with a cheap BBC spaceship that's recycled dustpan and brush glued together. That's fine. It's willing suspension of disbelief on this one because the story is strong enough to support it.
I do get that jolt, that bit where we've just had sort of, I can't remember the exact thing. We've had some funny bits, and then we cut to those campers, and they get really killed and everything, and it's really horrible. And I know that bit's when I'm watching the episode and that bit's coming up. That for me, it's like being a kid. It's looking away, and it slightly upsets me. So that's why I'm looking at. I could say 10 out of 10.
Oh, too scary for you, Al.
I get depressed with that. So that's pretty good. So far, that's the highest rating one. Will that change with one of? Am I getting this right in the right order? Yes. One of my favourites, Androids of Tara.
This was the biggest surprise of the season for me.
Yeah.
Because again, in my memory, it's a middling story. I read the book. Famously, I read the book in half an hour the first time I had it. It's 125 pages. I just sat there and I read it. I loved this one.
Yeah.
I was flabbergasted. I thought, no, this was going to be a 7 out of 10 type one. But I mean, Count Grendel alone was just fantastic. Peter Jeffrey as really was a panto villain, but he worked as a panto villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand they left him alive at the end of the story because they kind of wanted to bring him back, ideally.
Next time, I shall not be so lenient, is what he says. I was going to say, also, the interesting thing about each and every episode of this, I could return to them so easily. I feel like they're pilots. Ribos, Pirate Planet even, Stones of Blood, and also this one. We're meeting all these different people, and I don't know if Big Finish have done any spin-offs. Maybe they have. But we're doing so much good world building. With this particular Androids of Tara as well, is again, it's the character work. There's something about Graham Williams who knows he hasn't got much of a budget. He can't do the gothic horror because it's kind of been done by Cliff. He can't do unit stuff, that's been and gone now. Right, whatever I'm doing, character work. We're going to really enjoy, these people that we're with, and it's funny, and for me,
I mean, I like it because it's a spin on the Prince and the Pauper, obviously at its heart. That's the story it's based on. But
Yeah.
it just felt like a spin on also things like the D'Artagnan tales. I know it's D'Artagnan rather than the Four Musketeers, but it has that sort of beautiful fit. There's back and forth and mistaken identity and high ideals and low cunning, and it was a romp. It was a genuine historical romp, except with electric swords. And
well, that was the thing.
Oh, my God, Tom's fencing.
Oh yeah,
in the final episode.
Good.
I just watched it going. Tom's got very good theatrical sword training. I know how to fight with swords, and I was very, very impressed by his footwork, by his blade skills.
Yeah.
And it was very clearly Tom doing it. It was, they weren't cutting away. It wasn't from behind. It wasn't it's Captain Kirk's stunt double doing it. It was Tom.
Do you want to hear some massive boring trivia?
Go on then.
Okay, so
is this what this whole episode's about?
Yeah. Well, the semi-hunchback, if we can say that now, Quasimodo character that sort of lets people into a gate, who's like, this way. He does that at some point. That is the original Jabba the Hutt.
Oh, really?
Actor who played that. But at the time of him doing this, which is like whatever 70s, he must have also been going, I'm going to be in this film by the guy who did American Graffiti. It's going to be so cool. I got a massive part. I'm the baddie. Little did he know that he would be edited out and only been seen as a sort of an extra, on deleted scenes or something. So,
but yeah, no, I mean, I genuinely enjoyed my time with it. I thought the location using Leeds Castle. Beautiful location, and I thought you've used the grounds brilliantly as for the whole bits of studio work obviously, but there was a real feel of medieval about it, and it didn't look cheap like the Pirate Planet by having a proper set, by having a proper building to use.
Yeah, and also we've got this thing where I've never seen The Prisoner of Zenda, but this is obviously based on it, and a bit like any old-fashioned Doctor Who, it's like, I'm watching this. I don't know it's based on something. I'll go and watch the original. So Hammer Horror for me, I'd never seen any when I was seeing this Philip Hinchcliffe era, and I hadn't really seen any horror.
No, you're right. I would have seen them later I would have seen this and then watched them in the 80s. But of course, we must also mention Mary Tam's glorious purple outfit that she wore throughout this, designed by herself because she didn't like the costume they had for her.
Well, I mean, also that's an interesting thing, is it? Because you have not robots playing robots, but you have this point where they do multi. So is there 3 Mary Tams in this? I mean,
I really got to one moment when I thought, we're going to have a goodies moment. Where the Romana's going to be thrown off a building. There'll be a very obvious dummy falling, and she'll get up at the bottom. I kind of felt we were going to have that kind of jump cut.
I think the only thing that is lacking, I think, at the moment, is the Black Guardian, who was mentioned in the first episode. I think is there a little bit of inkling in him in the previous story?
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? I mean, unlike when we get to like Mandarin Undead, Enlightenment, where the Black Guardian is in the background working with Turlo.
Yeah,
he's off screen for most of the season.
This is the problem. I think the problem is you have these really great stories with great villains like the Captain and Vivian Faye and I've forgotten who the bad
Count Grendel.
Yeah, that's it. And he's Grendel of Grark, which sounds like a weird poem. And him, basically, there wouldn't be time for some shadowy figure to go, Mwah-ha-ha-ha. I think they could have done that, but they didn't. So you sort of forget that, the Black Guardian wants to get hold of this thing that they're
I mean, you could argue the Black Guardian had the right idea, which was basically wait for the Doctor to get the 5 segments, then jump in when he got the 6th.
Yes. So we've had a really good run. Ribos. Pirate Planet.
How much? What are we rating this one, Tara?
9 out of 10.
I think I concur. I don't know why I'm dropping 1 point. Okay, I've just thoroughly enjoyed it. I think maybe the electric swords are just silly, but there was so much to love about this one.
Yes. Okay, so the next one must be absolutely brilliant.
The power of... Oh, look, Kroll's with us today. Here he is.
Well, I mean, we were doing ever so well. I mean, I tried to watch this one again recently, and there were bits of it I liked. I could admit to watching this when I was a student slightly, I'm going to say inebriated, and it helped. But watching it uninebriated, it's a bit of a slog or a slug. It's not great.
I had more hysterical laughs watching this one. Unfortunately, not for the right reason. That it is a risible one. But you know what? There's some good performances in it. I mean, Philip Maddock looks pissed off throughout the whole thing. I'm not sure if his character is just genuinely pissed off.
I think there were rumours that he thought he was going to be playing the other character, and he's stuck with this character. It's like, oh. Okay.
I mean, Neil McCarthy was great. I mean, I loved him as Thrawn. I mean, he's such a characterful face. He was, beautiful in that. And John Leeson, I really enjoyed having John Leeson in it as a character. Because K9, we haven't got K9, so hey John, let's have you on screen and play a character, and he's really good.
I think what we managed to avoid with this, because it's King Kong sort of with monsters, and it's a nice idea. Is it written by Robert Holmes? There's a good writer behind it.
It is indeed Robert Holmes again. Yes.
Quite work. But what's interesting about it is the fact that they're all green. It could have been a lot. It could have been a lot worse. The Swampies could have been more unpaced, but they went for green instead of her. That's what I'm saying. It could have been a lot worse. So the fact that they don't put on accents to be, they're like, I say, I am a Swampy.
It had the feeling of a sort of season 1 Hartnell episode. We are all rather actors, and we're wearing green because we're Swampies.
But they don't put any. Thank goodness they don't give them any sort of Swampy language or make them speak. Yeah. Racist way, thank goodness.
Do you know the moment that made me laugh the most is when I was watching the the kind of the guy who was kind of working with the Swampy, selling him things, Romdut, and I just went, it's Jack Rolfe from Howard's Way.
Oh, okay.
it's Glenn Owen. My wife was watching it with me, and we were both going, yeah, it's definitely him, isn't it? We both watched Howard's Way. Looked up, and yes, it is him. And I thought it was great because I think he was just playing Jack Rolfe the early years before he went into the boat business and was selling things on Delta Magna.
Well, it's a shame because I think the idea is really good, and the fact they seem to film quite a lot on location, so you think, oh, this will be really tense, but and I think I might have been on a LARP in that area where all the swampity bits are and all the grasses. So it should be really exciting. And something about
it's a lovely location. I looked at it, I was going, this is beautiful, really.
And I like the monster.
The problem is, I mean, it's the line across. Here's Kroll, he's popped up and back down again. Where's the displacement? Where's the water displacement, the mud displacement? Is he the hole? Is he?
You have these tentacles that come at people.
Oh, the tentacles. When the guy pretty much climbs into one of the pipes, he's pulled by a tentacle. I lost it in hysterics. I really did. It was I'm fighting this tentacle now.
I think the problem is this is one story that had Tom Baker been hammy in this, had everybody been over the top, then it would have worked. The irony is, in what is essentially a B movie with tentacle monsters and swampies, that they play it incredibly straight, and it doesn't quite work. It's a shame.
It had weirdly. I mean, I said an earlier one reminded me a bit of Hartnell. It actually reminded me a bit of a Troughton one. It's a base attack.
Yeah,
that seems to be the heart of it. The heart of it. So I say some good performances from the guys in charge of the gas mining rig. Swampy's perhaps less so. Kroll, oh my lord, no. But I had a good time watching it. Possibly not for the right reasons. But I had a good time.
What would you say?
I'd have 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it.
I'm going for a 6 because I watched it again recently and I was a little bit bored. Maybe I needed more stimulus. I don't know, as in the first time I saw it.
More stimulants, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so far we have been building up. We've got the key to time. We've been to different swampy places. We've been to we've seen electronic pirates. We've seen scringe stones and bloody stones. So now coming up, the key to time, final big epic thing. What did you think? Armageddon Factor.
Oh, about 7 episodes too long.
Oh dear.
And it's only 6 episodes, so that's a pretty.
Yes.
I was. I remembered watching this the first time round and thinking it was a good conclusion.
Yeah.
Watching it in my maturity, some good performances again. I mean, John Woodvine as the Marshal, just foaming at the mouth throughout. And I loved him. I thought he was great. I thought, I enjoyed Lalla Ward, obviously as Princess Astra.
Yeah.
Every time she was on the screen with Mary Tam, I'm going, it's two Romanas for the price of one. I thought Mary Tam was at her finest in this episode. But the Shadow. God, every time he was on, I was looking at my watch and going, get on with it. I am evil and I have a mask that doesn't move.
That's uncanny. That's really
I really found it like, we're only on episode 2. Oh God.
I've got the opposite. I think it's a story of two halves, where it starts off fairly serious and there's a war on two different planets, but there's people, the guy who's in charge of one side is being controlled by a bit of dark Lego in his neck, and behind the mirror is this. You're thinking, where are we going with this? And there's a time loop, and there's some sort of sinister computer on another planet doing stuff. You're thinking, great. But then it just seems to be funny, weird set piece after set piece. And the last 2 episodes, I can't prove that Douglas Adams had a hand in this. It feels very, in a good way for me, silly. One of the
he's listed as having uncredited script editorial work on it, so we possibly have the stamp of Adams on it because Drax.
Yes.
I
like Drax.
I'm a geezer Time Lord, eh? I come round here, sell you some weapons. Look at this. I'm going to miniaturize you now, Doctor. Oh, I wasn't meant to do that. Silly old Drax. Oh, dear.
It is very. So you have this strange thing where you have a very serious story.
Yeah.
But you have all this silliness and ridiculousness, and then you get to the end of Key to Time. So how are we going to resolve it? Don't worry, the White Guardian showed up, played by a different actor, which is a bit weird.
Because the original actor wasn't available. That's a bit of poor planning.
You didn't film it when you filmed the first bit.
Yeah, just do
it later. Bit of blue screen.
I think that's a Doctor Who production problem. They film them in the individual episode blocks, so they don't film things out of sequence, unfortunately.
But I did like the bit where suddenly Tom Baker, I have the key to time, does this madness, and you're like, what? And he's like, not really. That's a joke. That's fine. And then the White Guardian shows up and says, hand over all of it. For me, the problem with the key to time, and I know it sounds really pedantic, is the fact that we're told at the beginning of this massive epic thing that the universe is completely knackered, but don't worry, if you get all the pieces together, we'll fix everything. But at the end of the story, we release everything. So is the universe still broken then?
Yeah. It's and actually we still know where the 6th segment is, because it's still Princess Astra.
Yeah, surely the baddies can now go looking for the kid. Yeah, where did all the segments go? If they all went back, then the Black Guardian...
Did they go back to where they originally were? Or they gone to new locations? Yeah. It's a bit of a, well, that was pointless, wasn't it?
That's the problem. Is you have this. For me, I really like the Armageddon Factor, but you have this thing of, I mean, watching it for the first time on VHS back in the 90s, and I'd really enjoyed collecting the videos from different shops, and finally they had I watched that last episode. And I was on the edge of my seat thinking, how are we going to end this? And we just break the thing and we send them all off and we grin at the camera and that's it. And I remember just thinking, could you have put, I know they bring the Black and White Guardian back in the 80s and defeat him with the power of light. I felt maybe a bit like the recent Star Wars films, is we weren't going anywhere. The sequels weren't going anywhere. They just were. We'd wrap it up, do it. The end. I felt with the key to time they hadn't thought how to end it, so they just went, Douglas Adams, could you write something silly that'll do?
It's a bit like the end of Trial of a Time Lord. We'll just muddle on through and hope nobody notices that we're just plastering things together and hoping for the best.
Like the Flux as well, I really enjoy that, but the ending is just like what though the ending is quite nice of the Flux, where they have that big baddie
episodes 1 and 2 of the Flux are actually really good, and then episode 6 has its strong points. It kind of dipped a bit in the middle, but and let's face it, Valentine Dahl as the Black Guardian, is just superb. There's no argument there.
He should have been. I think they could have just got him into a recording studio and get him to record bits that could have featured all the way through each little.
Yeah,
little,
on the next world, Doctor, I will have. Just tiny teaser reminding us that we're watching something serialized and not just episodic.
So I do like, I'm afraid to say, I have more entertainment. I think it's because it follows the Power of Kroll. I have a lot of entertainment with this, so I give it like an 8.5 out of 10 because I really like it.
I've got to confess, I was giving it a 5 out of 10.
Wow,
it dragged. I couldn't abide Drax.
Oh.
The Janine one was terrible. However, Mary Tam was fantastic, and I wanted another season with her as Romana. I'm sorry she didn't come back. And that was probably the biggest revelation the whole series, the whole Key to Time season for me.
Yeah.
I just sort of went, Mary Tam, what a fabulous companion, what a fabulous Romana.
Yeah.
I feel sort of robbed. Much as I love Lala, I feel robbed we didn't get another season of her.
So we've got the Key to Time. I know we could sit here adding up all the numbers that we've got, but out of 10, as a concept, what did you reckon? Do you think it was?
I think as a concept, I'm really pleased Doctor Who did something different.
Yeah.
I think it was a period, particularly if Tom's been in post for so long, that actually doing a season where we've got a continuing narrative, bringing in a Time Lord companion, brave, exciting, had some duff bits, but it's a 7.5 out of 10 season, absolutely.
Yeah. It's really cool, and it was nice to look at it again because it was this thing of where I'd enjoyed the Flux and Trial of a Time Lord, believe it or not. I like the long continuous serial. It's not like a story arc. That was the thing. Nowadays, every sci-fi show has a story. All starting off with Buffy and Babylon 5, and now everything has to keep drawing you in. And I like the fact that you have all these different writers doing their different go at it. So you've got two Robert Holmeses, you've got a Douglas Adams, Stones of Blood, and then you've got a complete mess at the end with Armageddon Factor. But as I'm with you, I'm so glad that they did it, and I always go back to the Key to Time. There's nothing, even the Power of maybe not.
Like you say, it's if you view it as Panto, Power of Kroll's fine.
Yeah, it is sillier. But there you go. So that was season 16 of Key to Time. And the weirdest thing is Doctor Who would only last another 10 seasons in the classic era. That's a thing to think. Oh my goodness,
do you know, it's funny. I was thinking exactly the same thing when I was watching it, because I was just looking, going, this is 78. Oh, by 88, we're kind of on the downward spiral.
And maybe we should look at a Sylve episode.
I think we should look at Sylvester, because I've rewatched some of his recently, and at the time I wasn't a fan. I am quite a fan these days of Sylvester.
So next time, it might be season 24, 25, or 26. We will leave you tantalising with that. So, thank you, Mr. Gaz. Yeah.
That's a pleasure.
Okay. Hang on.